Hello and welcome to the EX Conversation, where I have candid conversations with employee experience leaders. Now, in this episode, I chat with Dan Lewis, who's had an interesting career from training legal to running social media for Sesame Street to delivering global comms for Visa. In this episode, he tells us how siloed tech, siloed data, and siloed people are the biggest things holding employee experience back, and how you can overcome it with AI. From tips and tricks for communicators, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Hi, Dan, and welcome to the EX Conversation. I want to jump straight in because I'm always really keen to hear how people ended up in internal comms and employee experience, because I've yet to meet a child that has gone to me, oh, I want to work in internal comms and employee experience. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in this trajectory.
Sure. Glad to be here. Thank you again for taking the time to connect. So I'm Dan. I actually started my career off as a lawyer. I practiced for a couple of years. What I really found was I have a passion for the intersection of technology and storytelling and helping others reach audiences at scale. I started as a communicator about 15, 20 years ago at Sesame Workshop. That's the nonprofit behind Sesame Street. I was running social media for uh, Elmo and Cookie Monster and Big Bird and, of course, Sesame Street itself. And that was obviously a fantastic experience. Sesame is a brand like no other. And I had the opportunity after a decade there to join Warner Brothers Discovery to lead digital communications for their corporate brand. And what I found there was that DC Comics, Warner Brothers Studios, CNN, HBO, their programs, their shows, they have a lot of fans, just like Sesame. But
Mhm.
Warner Brothers Discovery itself, or when I was there, Warner Media, you don't really have that same passion for the house of brands as you do for the brands itself. The people who are paying attention to the messaging that we were putting out there, the idea that Warner as a media giant shapes culture, were the people who worked at Warner itself, or from like an employer branding perspective, the people who would at some point like to join a media company. And my team and I, we were on external platforms and we were having a lot of fun with it and doing a lot of the same work I was doing at Sesame, but we were really talking to internal audiences. And the feedback you got from internal audiences, especially when you did a good job, was really positive and really inspiring. So I had the opportunity to join Visa, to that to join their internal communications team, leading the internal digital platforms team, the corporate intranet, the all employee newsletter. We rolled out an internal social network for our employees as well. And what I realized was like that was a fantastic way to again reach employees at scale through technology. So I kind of just progressed that way. The lawyer part aside, it's always been about how do you get your story out there? How do you elevate the purpose, the strategy, and the culture of the organization you're working for? And sometimes we take for granted the people who work within our walls or who uh, are living the brands day in and day out, but they're really important and we shouldn't take them for granted. They carry forward all of that brand messaging, all of that culture first, purpose first work that we try and do in whatever role we're in. And I found a real passion for it, and I'm glad to have had that experience, and I hope to do more of that in the future.
Yeah, it seems like you've got a lot of love and passion for the profession. I kind of want to talk about that. But before I get to that, you're probably the first internal comms person I've seen come from a legal background. Um, how did that step change happen? And what sort of perspective does that give you on the work that you're doing?
It's not something I intended to happen. I didn't go to law school to become an internal communicator, that's for sure. But when you go to law school, they teach you how to do something called issue spotting. You take a fact pattern, you take the situation or environment that you're in, and you look for things that could be opportunities or could be problems. Like your general like strengths, opportunities, SWOT analysis, right? And if you apply that to any profession, you're going to find success. You're going to find that you bring a perspective that not necessarily everybody else has. For me, I was actually a labor and employment attorney for a few years, so I also understand a lot of the HR aspects to what it you need to do to be successful at a Fortune 500 company. So for me, internal communications also made a lot of sense there. I can see the issues, I can see the pitfalls, I can see the opportunities, And I speak the same language as my colleagues in legal and in HR. So I'm able to have those conversations in a way that we don't have to explain to each other what we're talking about. They get what we're talking about, I get what we're talking about, and we can move things forward much more quickly. Uh, I think, we don't, we probably think of, lawyers as being front and center in a courtroom, but a lot of it is just making persuasive arguments and writing things that help not just, change minds, but ultimately change culture. And internal communications, external communications, legal work, it's all one and the same in that regard.
Yeah, and so I didn't think about it like that, but actually, there's probably a lot of storytelling lessons that communicators could learn from uh, legal backgrounds and the arguments and the way you form things, and so that's really interesting. You work with some iconic brands, and I can see why you have a lot of love and passion for the profession. But was there like a aha moment where you realized the value of employee experience that you thought would like really make a difference?
Yeah, there were a few. Whenever you have a moment where something is happening that's bigger than the company itself, and there are, for better or for worse, a lot of examples over the last few years, employees really want to make sure that their personal values align with the company that they're working for. And being able to coach executives to craft that narrative that helps employees understand that, yeah, we are in alignment. Like that, what we're doing is, look, all businesses, even nonprofit organizations, they need money to survive. You have to be able to pay your bills, or you can't have the impact you want to have. If you're a for-profit company, then obviously you have shareholders or other stakeholders for whom you need to drive value. But at the end of the day, your employees, some of them are going to be there primarily for the paycheck, if not solely for the paycheck, but you really want your employees to feel good about coming to work every day, to feel like they are doing something that is bigger than just making money for the company. They want to have a
Hmm.
positive impact on their world, and you want to represent that pro-social environment. So without going into details on specific ones, there have been plenty of opportunities throughout my career where I've been able to represent that. And the nice thing about that is what you see is if you do that right as a communicator, whether you're internal or external, your employees appreciate it. At Sesame, I wasn't working on internal communications. It's a small company, 500 people. There was no dedicated internal comms person when I was there, but the people who cared the most about the messaging that we were putting out on Twitter, on our corporate website, that we were working with our CEO to help communicate, those were our employees because they wanted to see that mission alignment. They wanted to make sure that they were bringing forward a world that was a better world for not only for themselves but for the next generation. And I've seen it everywhere I've gone. It's true at Warner, it's true at Visa as well.
Yeah, so you've seen lots of cool things in different companies and different types of companies as well. Employee experience is typically one of those areas that doesn't get the right investment. And what would you say? What do you see companies getting wrong about employee experience at the moment?
So one thing that I wouldn't say they're doing it wrong, I just think it's hard to do. Measuring the impact of your employee experience work is just really difficult because the data is often just not visible to you. So, when you put out a memo talking about, your Q3 earnings, how is that resonating? You have no idea. A lot of employees might not care. A lot of them might really care a lot, but there's no feedback loop. There's no way to measure sentiment. If you're going like blind or places like that, you're going to get negative feedback. You're not going to get any positive feedback. So a couple things that I'd like to see. One is having some way beyond like your annual employee survey to get feedback from employees, ideally anonymously with that trust factor, so the employees know that if they're giving you potentially critical feedback, that there's going to be no repercussions from that, at least on the individual level. You need to have that some way of getting feedback. Visa, we rolled out Viva Engage, the company's first ever internal social network, in large part because we wanted employees to feel that we were listening and we cared and we wanted to we weren't just saying things for the sake of saying things. We were saying things because we wanted to get feedback and we wanted to make adjustments. You want the employee experience to be a positive one, and you can't do that unless you get feedback. The second thing I think we're going to see over the next, hopefully, few months, but certainly over the next few years, especially with all the AI tools that we have coming to bear, we'll be able to create or to take the data that we have from corporate intranets, corporate social, corporate newsletters, uh, surveys, pulse surveys, even third-party sources like Blind and like Glassdoor, and we'll be able to take that information and really do a meaningful data analysis on that for the first time ever. The
Mm.
problem with employee experience data right now is twofold. One, it's very siloed. Every single
Yep.
bucket has its own data, and breaking down those silos is expensive. It takes a lot of human work. It takes a lot of honestly guesswork also to figure out, well, what does a read on the corporate intranet mean versus a like on the corporate social versus an open of a corporate email? Like, we don't know. We have to do a lot of data massaging, if you will. And the second is we've detached, and this is not our fault as communicators, this is just how the platforms work. We've detached the content, which gives you context for whatever you're talking about, from the analytics itself. So if you send out an email using basically any email service platform, what you'll get is the content goes to their inboxes, but the data, the open rate, click-through rate, read time, if you can get that, that lives separately. And the only thing connecting it is some indicator within the email service platform that says, oh, this data goes with this content. The same is true for your corporate intranet, right? If you, let's say you're using Google Analytics for some reason, and you have that plus the content. Google Analytics unifies that through the URL, but the content and the analytics don't marry anywhere. Once we can break
Hmm.
down that wall also, and you break down those data silos, throw that all into some big, like, what feels like a magic box, but it's not. It's just technology. Use
Hmm.
that, add that semantic layer that we can do with large language models and with AI driven queries and that type of stuff. We're going to be able to say, oh, what was the employee sentiment around our Q3 earnings? And you'll get a immediate report saying, here's what people said, here's what they're thinking, here's how this compares to last quarter, here's some uh, options for improving this next time, and here's some watch outs for next time as well, things you shouldn't mention or things that you need to focus more on. I think internal communications, that is going to fundamentally be a lot more powerful because we're going to be able to break down those data silos and we're going to be able to get that semantic understanding of how employees react to certain things.
Yeah. So you make a really interesting point, which is that we've got siloed tech and we've got siloed people as well in a way. And so I guess what you're saying is that AI is an opportunity to overcome that in a way. I know you run like an AI comms newsletter. Tell me a little bit about that, and also what have you learned in the process of creating that? I'm sure you've learned some interesting things already.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a technology first communicator for my entire career. I was again running social before Instagram and TikTok were even companies. I've had an email newsletter of my own before Substack and Beehive were a
Yeah.
thing. So with AI in the crescendoing right now, or emerging, I don't even know which one to say. I wanted to make sure that I was staying ahead of the game on that as well. And I have deep experience running email newsletters, deep comms experience. So at the beginning of this year, I started a newsletter called the Comstack or thecomstack.com. It's designed to help communicators make sense of the impact that AI is having on our everyday work life and to hopefully get ahead of it so that we can be AI forward communicators. The opportunity I saw is twofold. One is I'm trying to learn this myself. I'm a little bit ahead because I'm inclined to be technology first, but the world is moving so quickly that I wanted to stay on top of it. And the second is I learn really well by sharing. So I wanted to help others as well learn how to make sense of everything that's happening. And what I found is that first, we're all figuring this out together. Like, I think a lot of people just are overwhelmed by the amount of change that's happening, by the new opportunities that are being unlocked. And they just kind of go into shutdown mode as a result because they think they see the change happening so rapidly, they assume they're way far behind, but they're not. Uh, AI is obviously here. It's obviously changing things, but no one's figured out anything yet. We're all figuring this out together in real time. So jumping in, just getting your hands wet with stuff and figuring things out, that's the way, that's how you're going to learn. Uh, the second big learning is AI isn't one thing. It's a bunch of different. You shouldn't think of AI as this like massive entity. It's a tool that works in many different ways. So for me, I built a custom GPT that helps communicators walk through their thinking for any communication they want to write and gives them a really good first draft. That's how you use AI to help you write your first thing. Then there's the AI for data and analytics, as we just talked about. I won't go back into that too deep, but you can see that there's an opportunity there. Then there's generative engine optimization. So we've lived in a Google first world forever. And search engine optimization is second nature for communicators
Yeah.
and also for marketers.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. That's not going away. But when
Mm.
you go to ChatGPT and you say, I'm moving to a new town. What are my options for a home internet provider? Right. They're not going to your website anymore. Those customers are going to get the answer from ChatGPT and make a decision right then and there. So if you don't have that information correctly appearing in ChatGPT, in Perplexity, in Google AI search, you're not getting to your clients, you're not getting to your customers. And what's really interesting from a communications point of view is that what drives that information, what the LLMs are citing is typically owned media, maybe 20 to 30% of the time, and then earned media probably the other 70, 80% of the time. So if you're not thinking about how to optimize your earned media to get the AI citations, you're missing it. From an internal comms perspective, I think we're going to see a lot of ability to customize the employee experience. There are like any other employee, I care a lot about my benefits, my vacation days. I'm taking a course through the Harvard Data Science Institute on how to build agentic AI solutions, and I wanted to know what my tuition reimbursement benefit was. My company has a lot of information on me. They know what state and country I live in. They know what obviously what role I'm in, etc. I shouldn't have to dig through documentation to figure out what my benefit is and whether it applies and how to get it approved. I should just say, "Oh, I want to a chatbot. I want to take this course. What do I do?" And it should give me that right away. If my company knows that I volunteer at certain organizations regularly and they have volunteer time off hours, then if somebody is starting an opportunity that aligns with my interests, it should come to me on the corporate intranet. I shouldn't even have to search for it. It should like someone across the country is doing something around adult literacy. I've shown an interest in adult literacy. Oh, show me that they're fundraising for this. Great, that gives me an opportunity to use my dollar match to help there. So I think internal communications customization is going to be the big thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like this hyper personalization, like because it's been trying to scale some of that's been difficult. I think we've known where the opportunities are, but having the resources and the technology to scale it properly when we don't have those resources can sometimes be difficult. Interesting you mentioned about GEO as well, because I think working in marketing, we also get to see this kind of pivot from all the growth of SEO and GEO and what you then have to prioritize. And I think there's some really cool things in it. One of the things that's come out of it is looking at unique, original thought leadership and things like that. And I think that's another area where I've actually seen some of our customers do some really cool things like Dentsu, looking at how you enable employees on thought leadership. So now you kind of got like a different way that internal comms can enable their employees as well in order to deliver better customer experiences as well. And it all kind of it all goes round and pays dividends in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to I always like to finish on a fun note, some hot takes and hear your thoughts and opinions on some different areas within the industry. Some social as well. So I'm going to go for some quick fire
Sure.
round. Um, so the first thing is power nap or power through.
I'm power through. I would love to find time for. I don't like the power nap. I don't like the 15-minute naps, but if I could find like 3 or 4 hours to
Yeah.
really kick back, that'd be great. But I'm power through.
Oh yeah, I feel yeah. um, gut instinct or data driven.
You know, I'm definitely data driven, but experience um, experience fills the gaps where the data isn't there. Uh, I trust my gut, but the data tells the right story, so I'm going with data driven.
Hmm. Okay, city or country.
I'm a mix. I live in the suburbs and I really like it. I enjoy going into Manhattan as often as I can. I don't think I would do well on a farm, but I like seeing trees. So let's go with a mix.
Yeah. Yes. In the office or homework.
Surprisingly, I've become more and more interested in home office. In office,
Yeah.
sorry. Uh, I really love being able to connect with my colleagues. And I've been a people leader for the last 10, 15 years, and being able to actually spend time with the people that you work with, that work under you, that you report up to, those relationships don't form as well as it does if you're 100% remote. That said, I don't mind having a day or two at home.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's that kind of hybrid now. A lot of people kind
Hmm.
of want a mix of both. I'm quite an in-office person, but I feel like over the years it's fluctuated depending on the type of work and the teams and the company, etc.
Yeah.
Um, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd known at the start of your career?
That everyone's figuring things out, and you don't need to know everything on day one. If you Imposter syndrome is real, but it's also not a reason not to try something new, not to put your best foot forward. It took me a long time to realize that uh, lack of immediate knowledge shouldn't be a reason to not be confident that you're probably on the right track, and also that
Hmm.
if you're not on the right track, people will help you figure it out.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and one that I probably that's advice I probably could take on as well. I think this is idea that you're either in like the right or the wrong camp, and if you don't totally understand something, that therefore you're in the wrong, but actually that it's all part of the path, and um, understanding that yeah, everyone's working things out, so just like keep plodding on.
Yeah, look, the most important skill anyone can bring to any job is to be curious, right? If
Hmm.
you're not curious, you're not learning, and if you're not learning, you're not growing. Nobody comes into a job on day one or to any situation on day one knowing everything. And even if you did, if you think you do, you're fooling yourself because there's always more to learn.
Hmm. And my final question for you is, um, so if there was one concept or idea from the workplace that you'd like to just put in the trash and be able to get rid of, what would it be?
Um, I really don't love the um, like team happy hours that
Mm,
are like the 4 o'clock team happy hours. I like the team lunches, I like the team dinners, but for me, the that like 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock time is where I'm like super productive, and I I don't like getting that interrupted. I
mhm.
I I think that that like kind of forced fun just doesn't work for me. I love hanging
Yeah.
out with my colleagues. I love spending time with them, getting to know them better. But like that time of day has never worked well for me.
Do you know what? I can totally relate to that because I feel like I've never really been a morning person. And just when it's getting to like 4 o'clock, I always feel like I have like a burst of energy, and then you have people starting to leave, and I'm like, oh no, this is my productive time. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I love a happy hour, but but yeah, you can't lose peak productivity time. And so it's been great to chat to you, Dan. I've got one final question, which is actually not, which is for our next guest. So we have this
Sure.
tradition where I get a question from my last guest for my next guest. So you don't know who that person is, but what question would you like for our next guest?
Sure. So I'd love to know is how have you integrated AI into your workflow, and how would you recommend other people do the same?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan.
Great. A pleasure. Thank you.